What's going on, Jets fans? It's Wednesday, September 17th, a little before 12:30 p.m. And I've had a little bit of time to digest the loss, the aftermath of the loss, all the takeaways from the fan base, whether some people are negative or positive or whatever. Aaron Glenn's words, his bullshit words. And I think the point of this video is going to be me telling you guys, start demanding better from the Jets. It's been 15 years of bad football, largely. It's been 20 plus years without a home playoff game, 10 years without a winning season. And Sunday felt like, Sunday was flashbacks from all the bad of the past 10 years. Not so much 15, but the past 10. With Aaron Glenn punting on 4th and 1 when his team's down 20. That was sure reminiscent of Todd Bowles, even Robert Saleh. Aaron Glenn kicking a field goal on 4th and 3, down 20. That was also reminiscent of Todd Bowles and Robert Saleh. You have him being very arrogant with the media. That's very much like Adam Gase. And just all the stuff, all the aftermath, it just reminds you of the past 10 years, 10, 15 years. And I know there's going to be fans out there, there's like, oh, well, it's only week 2. You can't blame Aaron Glenn for the past 15 years, so on and so forth. You have to give him a chance. This is not going to be a quick fix. And sure, it's not. You can't blame Aaron Glenn for the past 10, 15 years. But you can blame him for making stupid quotes and being arrogant with the press and the results not coming forth. That's my problem. My problem is when he recites these quotes. We're going to be competitive. We're going to be a competitive team this year. Okay, well, week 1 was competitive. I get that. You lost to the Steelers. It was a 2-point game. Defense basically didn't show up the entire game outside the defensive line. The offense was good. Week 2, it's like the coaching staff shit their pants, quite literally. Because they were, on both sides of the ball, they were unprepared, they were undisciplined, they were poorly coached. Run defense was horrible. And here's another quote from Aaron Glenn talking about the run defense. I think this was on Monday. The run defense was running their asses off. Mind you, the defense gave up 132 yards to James Cook and 224 yards on the ground in total. You know when the last time the New York Jets gave up 200 yards on the ground? Go back 4 years, close to 4 years. Remember that 2021 Thursday Night Football loss? I think it was Thursday Night Football. Thursday Night Football loss where the Jets absolutely got trounced in Indianapolis. Trounced by Jonathan Taylor and the Indianapolis Colts. The one possible excuse you could give to that team that gave up those 200 yards or so in 2021 is that team was bereft of talent. They don't have Sauce Gardner. Yeah, they had Quinnen Williams. They didn't have Jermaine Johnson or Will McDonald or a solid DT in the middle to help Quinnen Williams like a Harrison Phillips. They didn't have Jamie Sherwood, highly paid linebacker. They might have had Quincy Williams, but he wasn't as good yet. That pissed me off and set me off to no end because you know what as well? You want to go look back at the All-22. You want to go look back at the highlight. The long touchdown run I'd say James Cook had from about midfield. The supposed run defense was running their asses off. You look at Brandon Stevens' effort on that play, it was inexcusable what he did. He basically gave up. He fucking quit. $36 million of quit and bullshit the first 2 weeks. He's getting beat across the middle. He's getting beat with pass interference penalties. 2 the previous week against the Steelers. Shitty run defense effort with that James Cook play. I would love to know who in their right mind, whether it was a scout, a pro scout, whether it was the general manager, whether it was somebody else in the front office, who made the decision to sign this guy? Because he fucking sucks so far. That's the truth. And the same problems that followed him in Baltimore the same problems that he had in Baltimore. You know, it was never about his speed. It was never about how physical he was. It was always about his lack of ball skills and his lack of ability to track the ball downfield. That's what happens. And when he gets beat, and sometimes when he does get beat and he doesn't see the ball, he grabs immediately. Pass interference, pass interference. So this little run defense running their asses off, that's very reminiscent of Robert Saleh. There's a certain word I'm looking for. It's almost intentionally misleading. It's gaslighting, and that's bullshit coming from the head coach, because you know that wasn't the case. It would have been a lot tighter game if the Jets didn't give up 200 yards on the ground. Be it also as well, they love to beat themselves on defense with those penalties, especially on third downs. This defense cannot get off the fucking field on third down. Sauce Gardner holding, Michael Carter holding on a simple rollout play. I don't know how the hell you hold out on a rollout play where Josh Allen just takes the football himself, but whatever. And then my absolute favorite is the Aaron Glenn defense of Michael Clemens. It's amazing. This dude should have been cut in the offseason. You could argue this dude should have been cut in the preseason. This dude should have been cut during the trim down to 53. He does not add anything on run defense or rushing the passer. He's just a fucking guy. But hey, look at all the penalties he does. Look at all the penalties he puts. He's like Nathan Shepard. If you guys remember him, the Jets drafted in 2018, and he was like somewhat always noticeable for a stupid roughing the passer penalty. It was ridiculous. But bring it back to Michael Clemens. Largely unproductive for most of his career. The Jets could have cut him in the offseason. They didn't. And then, not to blame Zach Rosenblatt, I'm just restating from his article that, I was able to surmise yesterday. Basically, the Jets are keeping Michael Clemens because they don't have enough talent at defensive end. That's a Darren Muji problem last time I checked. The Jets could have added players not only from the draft, but also in free agency. I think Zadarius Smith was out there, if I'm not mistaken. I think he recently signed with somebody. Jadeveon Clowney was out there, right? Then the Jets effectively, and this is one of my concerns from I don't know if it was the season preview or it was altogether the final roster cutdowns, the lack of edge depth. Because behind Will McDonald and behind Jermaine Johnson, there's nothing. Braden McGregor, okay, maybe he has a shiner. He shows signs like one time a game maybe. But he's largely unproven, and he's largely not a positive player. Michael Clemens, we all know who he is. Largely. Michael Clemens, and I'm finally getting to the point. 3rd down and 16. Bills are in field goal range. Allen throws it incompletion to the right side. You wait, okay, incomplete. Nope, penalty flag in the backfield. Jim Nantz says, hey, they might have hit Allen late. I start screaming. Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense number 72. And I went ballistic. Luckily, you guys didn't see my reaction. But then Aaron Glenn, after the game, was asked about this. Well, it was a questionable call, 50-50 call. That's bullshit. You talked about, after the Steelers game, if you're going to commit costly penalties and costly turnovers, you do not deserve to be on this football team. You will not have a place on this football team. Well, why the fuck is Michael Clemens still here? And going back to the edge room, right? The Jets took a 7th-round defensive end in Tyler Barron. They're not giving him playing time. He was healthy and active last week. He was healthy. He just didn't play. That is a huge indictment on Darren Muji. Huge. And suffice to say, he's not had a good offseason whatsoever, to any account. But more on Muji later. Michael Clemens, personal foul. Aaron Glenn will justify it, okay? Then we go to Monday's press conference. He finally admits that Michael Clemens did wrong, which is essentially a 180 from what he did Sunday. But then he does another 180 and continues to talk about Michael Clemens and supposedly how good he is. And, today, Wednesday, He also talked about, Michael Clemens does good in the role that he's playing in, and all this different stuff. I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? What do you think, like, the fans are that fucking stupid? Honestly, throughout his career, I think it was Joe Blewett or Michael Nania or somebody, I swear, had the stat. The dude has more penalties throughout his 4-year career than sacks. He is largely unproductive. He should have been cut before the season. But no. The Jets, again, Aaron Glenn, like the fraud he is right now, talked about accountability and the penalties I mentioned earlier and the costly turnovers, all these different things, right? Costly mistakes. Well, according to your words, Aaron, Michael Clemens should have been gone, but he's not. And if it's so much a problem that the Jets didn't have defensive line depth or edge depth, once again, that's an indictment on your general manager. And that's also an indictment on your coaching staff and general manager and the scouts' talent evaluations. Because you've been shit at that the entire offseason. Brandon Stevens, $36 million a year. How's that working out? Andre Sisco, how's that working out from 1 year's $8 million to be essentially a stopgap? How about Tony Adams, keeping him? He sucks, even though he's hurt. Let's see, Justin Fields. Staff that has never developed a quarterback now has to recalibrate a quarterback who's now with his third team. So essentially try to rebuild him because he's damaged goods at this point. And the same issues that followed Justin Fields in Pittsburgh and in Chicago have followed him here. And the reason that Justin Fields struggled last week, not only was the misses to Taylor and Garrett Wilson, it was also because the defense and the Bills finally saw film of what the Jets were able to do against the Steelers. As I said earlier, the staff shit their pants. The offensive staff shit their pants. The defensive staff shit their pants. They made absolutely no adjustments. None. It's ridiculous. And now people are like, oh, well, the Bucs are going to be banged up a little bit. I think Elijah Cansey might be out for the season with a torn pec. Baker Mayfield was a little banged up in the Texans game. He won, obviously. But to me, the Jets don't get that benefit of the doubt anymore. They don't. Not whatsoever. I'll call things objectively. I'll do my previews and stuff. But straight across the board, in terms of these things, they do not get the benefit of the doubt from me until I see some legitimate fucking results. And that starts with the head fucking coach. Defensive unit, Steve Wilks, veteran coordinator. You have all this talent. Aaron, isn't your expertise in defense? Isn't your expertise on the defensive side of the ball to where you can, at least collaborate with Steve Wilks and say, here's what they're targeting, here's the problem, let's make that adjustment? There's absolutely no adjustments. And per Robbie Sabo, it's essentially a scheme that the Jets are running is a hybrid of Wilks and a hybrid of Glenn. It's so bad because it's so predictable that Josh Allen was able to sit back there and dice up man coverage easily. Sauce Gardner got beat in man coverage. Michael Carter gets beat in man coverage. Brandon Stevens everybody gets beat in man coverage. They don't disguise. They don't hinder anything. It's a, I don't even know what word to say. It's like it's a turnstile defense. Maybe that's not the right term. Basically, matador defense. Awful. Absolutely awful. And my essential point, and here's some other quotes from the great Aaron Glenn. Not only are we going to be competitive, he talked about competition in the training camp. Well, the person who should have won the competition and by and large was the better returner is on your practice squad. And the person who won your kick return job is no longer on the roster. You have shitty kick returners now. Jamal Pritchett showed something in the preseason, but you cut him and put him back on the practice squad. Xavier Gibson absolutely showed you nothing in the preseason, but somehow he sticks on the roster and cost the Jets the Week 1 game. And now you have some guy named Isaiah Williams returning kicks. Wasn't good last week. Isaiah Davis wasn't good last week against the Bills. Here's some more quotes. Instant coffee era. This is from Aaron Glenn, by the way. Before we get to instant coffee era, he was asked expectations for the season. What do you want to come out of the season? Fair question. He says, we want to have a team that the fans are proud of. Are we proud right now? Like, I know some fans will justify getting blown up by the Bills, which I think is complete bullshit, because there's enough talent with this team to compete with the Bills. And with the most incompetent of staffs, with Robert Saleh and Jeff Ulbrich, they were actually able to compete with the Bills for 2 to 3 years in a row. 2022 at home, they won with Zach Wilson. 2023 at home, they won with Zach Wilson amidst the Aaron Rodgers injury. 2024, they were close. And obviously, the objective is to win. But I'm talking about how this team has similar talent on the defensive side of the ball and somehow could not keep up with the Buffalo Bills. Somehow. That's fucking coaching. More than anything. That's coaching. And these aren't like this is not a rookie defensive coordinator. This is a veteran defensive coordinator who has had the reputation of being one and done. That's the issue. So, by and large, we're not proud of this team right now. And once again, not giving this team the benefit of the doubt until I start seeing results. Anyways, instant coffee era. Heard the same line of shit from Robert Saleh. And Aaron Glenn had another quote, 2 quotes actually, that really pissed me off because he contradicted himself. He said, we're going to be competitive early in the year. And now he's talking about, well, this is an instant coffee era. Same shit as Robert Saleh in terms of that saying. He's basically saying, this is not going to be a quick turnaround. Meanwhile, you said your team was going to be competitive, which is a very sharp contradiction. You have that. And then for some reason, he just starts talking about Legos. Piece by piece, block by block. What are you, like fucking 7 years old? I mean, excuse me. I remember when I was 7 years old that I was building those Lego airplanes. But he's talking about Legos as the coach of the New York Jets, which is almost an unserious comparison. Because once again, we are going by his words, we're going to be competitive. This past week you weren't. And then he was talking about the defense. Today, we're going to chop wood. How many of these stupid ass quotes as Jet fans we're going to hear and we're going to be like, well, I've heard that one before, or people are just going to continue to justify it. And I'll tell you this right now. My stance on Aaron Glenn. I don't trust him. I think he sounds like very much a used car salesman. I don't think he's aggressive in terms of his game plan as much as we think, because those punts, I should say the punt on 4th and 1, the kick on 4th and 3, was the absolute quitter mentality that the past 3 head coaches for the Jets have had. The exact same shit. Funny, we're going against Todd Bowles this week. So you have that. His mouthing off to the media like Adam Gase talking about how good Justin Fields was last week and basically, you guys are doubting Justin Fields. Well, coach, this is his 3rd team in a matter of 21, 22, 23, 24, 5 years. 3rd team in 5 years. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that he is obviously bounced around. There's a reason that he's not a top quarterback. So, have a little bit self-awareness, first of all. And you mouthing off to me, I will tell you right now, there was another coach from a couple of years ago, wasn't with the Jets though, was on the other side with the Giants, who constantly mouthed off to the media, talked about aggressiveness, and whenever he got questioned, he would hide. And then he would make up BS answers or blame somebody else. And he wasn't as aggressive as people said, by the way. You know who that coach was? That was Joe Judge. He was gone in 2 years. 2 years with the Giants. Fans had had enough of him. And let me say this for the record. I don't give a shit that Aaron Glenn learned from Sean Payton or Bill Parcells anymore or Todd Bowles. I don't give a shit. You be your own coach. Be authentic. Say, I demand better from my team. Last week wasn't excusable. All the run defense quote was a giant excuse, and then he's talking about building block by block. It's bullshit. And you know what? If you want to be a fan that says, "Well, it's week 2, I'm going to give Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji time," that's fine. That's a reasonable take. I understand that. But you can't sit here and blame the negative fans who are like, "Oh God, this is like Salah. This is like Gase. This is like Bulls. This could fail very easily." And they're kind of like, I don't want to say calling it to existence, but it's almost like a prediction. And then the positive fans will say, "Well, you're just being negative. You guys need to relax." There was a certain content creator who was saying that the Aaron Glenn discourse was out of whack, which is bullshit. There was also another stream I looked at last night that the title was "Jets fans are insane," which is absolutely erroneous. We are not insane. We're just beating the fuck down. It's like PTSD all over again. This, as I said, Sunday from Aaron Glenn was a semblance of the past 3 head coaches. It's like you got a little bit of Bowles, a little bit of Gase, a little bit of Salah. There is no positives to take out of that. And then I'll bet your ass the same positive fans will tell if this team had the record flipped and it was 2-0, they'd be like, "Oh, Aaron Glenn is, coach of the year, Darren Muji, executive of the year. The Jets are really turning this ship around." Not the case. Not the case. You cannot have it both ways where you say, "Oh, patience," at 0-2, and then 2-0 when, when 2-0, everything is great. And we're going to go to the coach of the year, executive of the year, Darren Muji, build a statue. My biggest problem with some of these fans is they anoint these people way too early. Way too early. How many people were simping for Joe Douglas all those years? How many people were simping for Robert Saleh all those years? I wanted Saleh gone after year 2. I wanted Douglas probably gone after year 3, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. You cannot have it both ways where you sit here and criticize the negative fans for the PTSD. Meanwhile, you'd be the same fans if this team was 2-0. You'd be like doing Super Bowl you would be celebrating. Because the last time the Jets were 2-0 to start a season was 10 years ago. Their last winning season. So my expectation and a message to all you fans out there, demand better. No more excuses. No more justification of losing. Yes, we know this is going to be a process, but you know what's funny? Because you look at teams like the Texans, the Bucks, the Eagles, the Jaguars when they had their winning season. It was turned around just like that. The Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. Oh, wait, that's a proven head coach, which the Jets will never fucking hire. Ever. Never, ever. They've never done it. And perhaps they never will. And you know what? I got to take a step back on that. They did hire a experienced head coach. You know what his name was? Adam Gase. And it wasn't a proven head coach like a Harbaugh, who they had a chance at. They could have fired Saleh twice after 22 and after 23. They could have gotten Harbaugh. They could have gotten Sean Payton. They could have fired him after Saleh after 2022. Could have gotten Sean Payton. But the supposed excuse I heard from Jet fans was, well, Sean Payton's a Drew Brees merchant. Bullshit. A lot of people expected the Broncos to suck last year, especially with Bo Nix. But that team was a top defense. The offense did its job. Yes, they got eliminated round 1, but they made the playoffs. They showed you that you can turn shit around in year 1. As I said, excuse me, it's time to demand better as Jet fans. It is time to stop simping out for these coaches and these GMs. Demand better. That's all I'm saying. This has been 15 years of shit. You cannot blame Aaron Glenn for the past 14. But he can either be the solution or he can be the continuation of the problem. That's where the problem lies. I want Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji to succeed. I want them to succeed. But right now, the results are shit. Through 2 weeks. This week is a critical week, albeit without Justin Fields, who's out with a concussion. This is a critical week. Get a win on the road. Maybe it changes things a little bit. Maybe you stack 2 wins against Miami, who's not playing so well. Also 0-2. But this week, if they lose again, you bet your ass Jets fans will continue foaming at the mouth, angry. And they have every right to do so. You're going up against the Bucks team, which are a good team. After all the shit this week, the coaching staff has to look at themselves in the mirror, make adjustments, and start holding guys accountable and start putting their money where their mouth is and start living up to the word. Because no Jet fan, no reasonable Jet fan, is going to sit here and listen to quotes and think that's going to be the greatest thing ever. Like, oh, well, Aaron Glenn said this. This is like gospel. No, that's not how it works anymore. Not when you've been bad for 15 years. Not when you've seen the results for the first 2 weeks and Aaron Glenn has essentially contradicted himself every single way forward. Right now, Aaron Glenn is a fraud through 2 weeks. He's not a defensive genius or defensive magician. He is not a proven he's not a CEO head coach as he aspires to be, because how many times did he say in the press conference after the Bills game, gotta watch the tape, gotta watch the tape, gotta watch the tape, gotta watch the tape. First of all, that's either a cop-out, or second of all, you don't know what's going on in the game. And if you don't know what's going on in the game, on either side of the ball, you do not deserve to be a head coach. How many times have we heard that from Saleh and Gase and Bowles? Once again, reference to 3 head coaches. I got to look at the tape. That means you don't know what's going on, and you're clearly in over your head. Right now, to me, Aaron Glenn is a fraud. I don't believe for any of his words. And second of all, I think he's in over his head. Could this change within weeks' time and this team looks good? Absolutely. I just don't want to see this spiraling down as Jet fans we've seen over the years. I want to have an answer at the end of this year if Aaron Glenn is my head coach. Or at least he should be for years forward. At least he deserves to be, for what I hope. But if it's one of those years where it's like Robert Saleh's first year, like, you really don't know, that's concerning. And these little red flags coming out of week 2 is very concerning. My final message, 4 words. Time to demand better. But if you guys have heard me rant for as long as I have, hit the like button, subscribe, turn the notification bell so when I go live or drop a new video. I'll be having my Bucks preview out tomorrow night, Thursday, or Friday morning, because Friday I'll actually be leaving for Atlanta for a convention, but regardless, I will preview the game. I will continue with my content. I'll continue being objective. But these kind of rants and stuff, I don't want to have to doing them because I want the team to succeed, and if they continue to falter, you'll be seeing a lot more anger out of me. See you guys for the preview. Talk to you guys later. Go Jets.